building. So if you look up at the building, you can see the fine stonework that went into building the wall there that's supporting the patio up there. When we get there, you'll see the patio. And then you look at the wall here for the residence itself, and all it is that brick, and he just podged over it. You can see podging up at the top. Now this was part of the like a double-deck porch that he had built in 1918 as an addition to it. So it wasn't the definite part of the building itself. It was an attachment to it, but we'll see what the building looked like. And also, all these cannonballs here, most of the cannonballs, or all the cannonballs that you're going to see were concrete formed. And if you look up here, you see one's missing. He loved these cannonballs. And see, one is missing out there, but you can see a spoke sticking out of it. And what he would do is take a piece of metal rod, like a bayonet rod, and stick it halfway into the soft concrete as he made that ball, and leave the other half sticking out, so half of it would go into a wall or into a column. And that's how he hung the cannonballs up there. Okay? So this is their residence. This is what they used as their residence. So let's go back.
Berries. Whoa. That's a serious amount of berries. Woo! Berries!
He's the person responsible for the buildings on the island. And as he had things built, he liked to label things. So this one is labeled Garden Brae. This one was labeled Moat Brae. A brae in Scottish is a sloped hill. Obviously, we're on a sloped hill. The gardens were down below here, and they were terrace gardens. It was lovely gardens facing the west side of the river. And there were also gardens down here where the supervisor's residence is. And we'll talk about the supervisor in a little bit. So that was that. And then this is the path up to the Bannerman's residence. And you could see and how we walked through there, there was that little gully that we passed between the two sides of the mountain, the rock. And that was his moat. Every castle has to have a moat. Sometimes you don't have water around a castle, and so what you would have is something called a dry moat. And in Scottish history, when they had a castle and a dry moat around it, what they would do is fill that moat with thistle. Thistle is a very thorny bush, and it acts as a deterrent for invading armies. And of course, they would have their drawbridge and so on to protect the castle. But that's what he had in mind here. He had a dry moat up there. There's no water up there, so he had nothing in mind as far as a wet moat. Okay? So let's go down here and we'll start with the history. Okay, so Francis Bannerman VI was born in Dundee, Scotland in 1851. His father came over to the United States in 1854. He settled in New Jersey for a short while, and then he called for his family. He called for his wife, Margaret. He called for along with their two sons, James and Frank VI. They also had a sister, and she came over with them also. And they stayed in New Jersey for a short while. What Frank was doing, Frank's father, Frank V, was doing, he was attend these auctions, and he would win these auctions, buy things from these auctions, and then sell this stuff to scrap dealers. And he would attend Navy and Army auctions. So he was getting used weapons and things like that. He would sell that. That's where his father made his money. 1861 rolls around in American history. We have the American Civil War. Frank's father, Frank V, enlists in the Union Army and goes off to fight, and leaves young Frank, who's now about 11 years old, to fend for his family. Young Frank has 3 jobs. He delivers newspapers to the naval officers in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Now, I neglected to say, they moved from New Jersey over to Brooklyn. They moved to Greenpoint, and they continue to do the same kind of work, attending those auctions. They're living in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. The father goes off to fight. Young Frank has these 3 jobs. He delivers newspapers to the Brooklyn Navy Yard, to the naval officers there. Brooklyn at that time now is the center of waterborne commerce in the United States. With the Civil War going on, there's a lot of building there. There's a lot of vertical windows. He lines them with cobblestones. And then when he builds the second story, look what he does. He tries to make oval windows. And he has rectangular windows, but he forms that concrete around it to make it look like an oval window. And then up at the top all around, he's got the different rectangular sized windows. It's really a mix of architecture that he has up here. If you look at the walls themselves, you look at the center of it, it looks like a nice, strong, sturdy wall, big stone. But when you look under here, underneath this window here, you see what it really is. So all this is going to be flowers. So next time when you come back, you'll see a lot lovelier place. James Campbell Bannerman, this was his granddaughter-in-law. So she just died recently. And notice the name. Remember the Campbells and the Bannermans with the battles? So they made peace. and children. So let's go down to Wee Bay. Just be careful with your footing. A wonderful job here making this thing look so lovely. The flowers all the way up there. They've really done a wonderful job. This is one of Mr. Bannerman's favorite places. If you like to sit here, this is of course up in here. And you can see that this parapet, he's got these two curve outs here. So there was two nice big trees here. And 100 years ago he'd be sitting here. These trees wouldn't be as large as they are here. And he probably had a nice shady area that he could look right across the way to the east side of the river. That's Breakneck Ridge on the right-hand side, that whole ridge up there. You separate each guard like that, and enough space so she can walk through it. So welcome to Mr. Bannerman's backyard. This was the residence, and they would come here, as I said, only on weekends and only during the summertime. It was built in 1908 as a one-story building. If you look up at the top, you see all those holes poked in the wall there. And below that, you see ODGE in concrete ribbon. Well, this was called Craig Inch Lodge. Craig Inch again, Rocky Island. And below that, very faintly, is AD 1908. So 1908, it was built as a one-story. The top part wasn't all there. You had that the circular part there, but you didn't have the rest of the top. You didn't have this